So I was asked a question recently, and I was attempting to answer this question in a recent video, but we kept having some zaps, sudden flashes, strange lights, causing me to lose my train of thought. But I've remembered the question, I've remembered the answer, and I'm going to tell the story about this today. And while I do, as always, I want to ask you to get my 6. Listen, but watch. Not me. Watch back here. So the question was, had I ever had some of these strange things happen in my past, either when I was a child or the earlier stages of adulthood, any places around the world? The answer is an over-resounding yes. Multiple times, many places, starting from a very early age. I thought of an instance, the story I'm going to tell you today, about it's a property very similar to mine. I think it's kind of eerie how close the similarities are, to the point of, you know, abandoned graveyards in the woods. The feeling of being watched by something in the forest behind you that may or may not be, potentially, Bigfoot Sasquatch. You know, if it's not a Bigfoot Sasquatch, what in the name of all things holy is it? Well, it could be many different things, as this story is about to show you. Now, I relay this story in the author's afterword of one of my novels, a novel called From the Graves of Babes, by me. Crazy Lake is also known as Kevin Lake, okay? And I'm going to put the link, the Amazon link where you can find all my books, in the description of this video. I typically do not do that. We've got almost 1,000 videos now, and I think maybe 5 or 6 of them have the link to my books. And the only reason I'm putting it in there now is because so many people continually ask, where can I find your books? I just always assume you go to Amazon, but when we assume, we know what that makes of you and me. Mostly me, the one who does the assuming, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put the link. But this isn't to pitch the book. It's in the afterword, the author's afterword. And by the way, that is an actual unmarked grave of a secluded graveyard where the story is set. Now, here's the story behind the story. This book was written in, I think, 2011, 2012, about 8 years ago now. It did spend 6 months on Amazon as Amazon's #1 rated ghost novel in customer satisfaction. It wasn't a bestseller as far as numbers go, but the people that read it really liked it. Largely because it seems so real, and that's because it is based upon real events and a real location. Now, the first time I visited this location, where this unmarked gravesite is, on top of a mountain, miles and miles and miles away from civilization in Appalachia, I didn't know these graves were here. Here's what's going on. I was about 15 years old, so this is more than 30 years ago now. A childhood friend and I, it was summer, we were hiking. We were hiking on top of this mountain, known area to us. I mean, I grew up there and spent years hunting and hiking on that hill, mountain biking, running. That's where I did most of my cross-country training. Okay, so we're hiking one summer, and we stopped for lunch. Now, we happened to stop on a very particular part of the mountain where we'd never stopped. We'd walked right through there, and I guess without really having thought about it until this time when we stopped for lunch, we always tried to get through this area as quickly as we could. We found out that day we stopped for lunch why that was. So we're sitting there, we're having our lunch, and the whole place, it was at the edge of a grown-up field, like an abandoned meadow, much like what I have on the back of my property just before we enter the woods here. Sitting there at the edge of the tree line, the wood line, and I just had this feeling that something was watching. I just got the feeling again, and I thought I just heard a knock back here in the forest. So I was trying to ignore the feeling, but I noticed my friend that was with me kept looking back over his shoulder, a lot like this. A lot like I do in these videos when I feel I have reason to look back behind me there. My 6. You're 12 as you're watching. People ask, what's that mean? It's military jargon. 6 o'clock. Directions on a clock. Directly behind me is 6 o'clock. That's what get my 6 means. Means watch my back. So he kept looking back, checking our 6s. Let's see if this thing right in here moves. And I said to him, finally, the wind's picking up. It wasn't windy at all when I came out here, but now the wind is picking up. It's becoming somewhat fierce. This is very strange. So anyway, I said to my friend, "Do you feel that?" And he said, "Yeah, I feel like we're like that, like we're being watched." We were 14, 15 years old. We actually picked up our food and headed down the hill, a couple hundred yards away from this location, completely out of sight of this location, around the next bend, and sat down and finished our lunch there. Okay? Fast forward a couple of years. I had my high school sweetheart, okay? It's night. We're hanging out up there, snuggling, I'll say. And just same spot, same place my friend and I had our lunch, tried to have our lunch a couple years before. And we feel entirely and totally creeped out, scared, as if, you know, somebody's watching, and it wasn't, you know, feeling guilty because of our snuggles. It was just a really creepy feeling. We got out of there. We left, okay? Fast forward to the following year, the next year. Okay, I was a senior in high school. I had a teacher in a particular class, and somehow the subject matter of this location came up. The topic of this location came up. And this teacher, who's since passed long ago, he was old at the time, he said, "You know," he said, "when I was a kid, I used to work for the Forest Service in the summers, and we'd clear some of the trails that cross the top of that mountain. And there was this one particular place up there where I always felt uneasy, and I would never take my lunch there. And whenever I was in that area, I would work as quickly as I could, and I would get out of that area as quickly as I could." And I asked him if it was this particular location. I described the location. He said, "Yeah, that's it exactly." This wind is really picking up. It's like someone or something either likes this story or doesn't like it being told. Excuse me, I got dizzy for a second. It's as if something's throwing something at me, but I'm sure it was just a stick. Anyway, the story will continue, like it or not. So the teacher told me that area always creeped him out. It was the same area. So this guy was creeped out 2 generations before me. I mean, he was older than being one of my parents. He could have been a grandfather. So 2 generations before. I'm distinctly hearing footsteps. Excuse me just a minute. I came prepared again. Guys, I really don't mean to like keep interrupting these stories. You know, everybody's like, "Why don't you use a tripod?" I do. I start out using a tripod. I would love to continue using a tripod, but when there's something back this way you need to watch for, I need to stop using a tripod. What fun is this if you can't get my 6? Do 6 for me, 12 for you. Back in here. Alright, so anyway, let's fast forward another couple years. I'm in college, almost finished with college. I'm back home. I'm doing some deer hunting. I'm up on that mountain again in that particular area. And I'm hunting with my father. We regroup, we get back together, and he says to me, "Hey, I got something up here I want to show you. I found this last year. You were away at school." He said, "I never knew this was here. You got to check this out." And it was in the woods behind the meadow where maybe 6 or 8 years before, my friend and I had felt like something was staring at us while we were having lunch. Former teacher felt as if something was staring at him 2 generations before while he was up there working. High school sweetheart and I felt as if somebody was staring at us or something while we were snuggling. We go back into the woods, not far, and there's a bunch of unmarked graves. This is actually one of them. There's 13 of them, and I kid you not, 13 unmarked graves at this location. Forest has grown up all around them. I knew the property owner. He's dead now too. He died maybe 6 years ago, and he was almost 100 when he did. The property had been in his family for maybe 70 or 80 years. So I sought him out, talked to him. He told me they knew of one person who was buried in that grave. It was a preacher who happened to be the grandfather of someone else I tracked down who was almost 100 at the time. So, but that's it. That's the only one they knew that was there. They didn't know who the rest of the people were, but the graves did go back to about early 1800s, before the Civil War, maybe late 1700s, perhaps earlier. There are spots there where the ground's sunken in, and there's no stones marking the head or the feet. You can just tell they're graves because of the way the ground sunk in at a length of about 6 feet. These graves probably date back to the early pioneers, which would be late 1600s, early 1700s, okay? So anyway, I gathered up as much of the history as I could, wrote an entire novel based upon that history, and this is all in the afterword, the creepiest part. Now I feel like something's walking up this way. We might be being flanked, guys. Let me do a slow pan, get my 6. I don't know if you heard that or not, but it's down there in the direction we were watching. Sticks breaking, not from a knock, but from something walking, something large. Wasn't a squirrel, wasn't a rabbit. Let's go back. Okay, so I'm 90% of the way through this novel. This was many, many years ago. What was that? Keep watching. But I was stuck on the ending. How does it end? How does it end? Well, I got the crazy idea that if I went and spent a night at this unmarked gravesite on top of a mountain in the middle of nowhere, maybe inspiration would strike. Maybe it would hit me. So I was dumb enough to do that. So I go up there, hike up there, way up there. It's like at least 3 miles straight up a mountain. Set up camp just before dark. And I've told this story before on this channel. I think just at the time I did, we had like 87 subscribers. Now we have like 207,000 subscribers. And thank you to each and every single one of you for being here. And my beautiful bride, Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, who now has her own channel called Life with Dearly, told me that I'm supposed to tell you to hit the bell button or something so that when I upload a new video, you'll be notified. She's much younger than me and she's more hip into this social... Sounded like a howl. The social media stuff. She knows how it works more than me. So anyway, guys, this is creepy. If you've got earbuds in, you're probably hearing this. It's like it's getting closer and closer, but I can't see it. These stories flow much more smoothly when we don't have someone or something back here trying to creep up on us and steal the show and steal the attention. Okay, so anyway, I have a small fire, I have my dinner, hang out for a while until shortly after dark, put out my fire, pour water over top of it, and go... Heard another howl. I lay in my sleeping bag, try to go to sleep. Now, I didn't have a tent because it was very hot, it was very humid. I'd used a mosquito net just to keep the mosquitoes and the bugs off. Very loud, distinctive knocks. So, So I'm laying there, all of a sudden, and you know what the woods sound like in the summer if you've ever been in the woods. If you've not, trust me, it's very loud. It's actually kind of hard to get to sleep because the frogs, the crickets, the night birds, the owls, everything. It's like a cacophony of noises. But all of a sudden, this all went silent. Complete and extreme silence, total blackness. There was no moon. I'm under a thick canopy, okay, at the top of the Appalachian Mountains. All of a sudden, I hear something come whizzing through the trees, through the leaves. Boom! Lands in front of my tent like a rock. I was like, there's a lot of knocks starting to start up out here. So I'm like, what is that? So I wake up. Well, I wasn't asleep. I sit up, and it happens again. Another rock or something, okay, lands at where the fire pit was, and my fire bursts into flame. I was like, that's it, I'm out of here. I got up in the camp that it took me like 10 or 15 minutes to set up. I had that thing broken down, packed up my backpack, dumping water all over the fire, dumping water to make sure that fire's out for good this time, which I'd already done. Take off out of there. Had this done in like 3 minutes. So I'm running down this trail in total darkness. I had a flashlight, but it wasn't very bright. You know me and my flashlights. I felt like something grabbed me by the backpack, and I had this very backpack, and like brought me to a halt. So I turn around, there's nothing there. So I take off running again, okay? Make it home. Later, the next day or a day after, you know, I told my dad about this, and he went hiking up there, and he said he found the most peculiar thing. Just below my campsite, there was like a ring of old pennies and coins on a rock with some feathers in it. It's a type of thing people will often do in the mountains when they are having like a seance or whatnot, trying to communicate with spirits or potentially the old ones, Bigfoot Sasquatch. So I hiked back up there again during the day, in the middle of the day, to find this spot he was talking about, to make sure he wasn't trying to kid around with me. And I found it. It was there. I found the coins. And you know what the strangest thing about that was? Is it was at the exact location where it felt as if something had grabbed me by the backpack and said, you ain't going nowhere, boy. At the exact spot. So, there's several stories wrapped into one story, which answers your question. Yes, I have had these creepy things happen to me before. So this begs the next question. I've been asked this too, and I don't know the answer. Are some places haunted? Or are some people haunted? I don't know. You be the judge. Let me know your thoughts on that one. Thanks for being with us for another episode here at the PBS. The Potential Bigfoot Sasquatch Show.